United States that's tucked away in Canada. Point Roberts is a geographical oddity and the perfect place to see how the new reality is affecting real life. If you look at it on a map, it looks like it should be part of Canada. And if you're American, the only way to drive there is through Canada. It's been called a wonderful piece of heaven, a 13 square kilometer peninsula just south of British Columbia's mainland, jutting out into the Strait of Georgia. About 2,000 people live here, within sight of Vancouver, surrounded by spectacular scenery. But if you choose to call this place home, life is anything but normal.
I've been here since '93.
Canadians Fiona and Shane Reimer fell in love in neighboring Tsawwassen, but made Point Roberts home about 15 years ago.
Hi, guys.
Now they, along with their children, Cole and Sarah, have to contend with its challenges.
After your breakfast, you gotta brush your teeth.
As green card holders living as American residents, the kids have to go to school in the U.S. Getting ready for school is a familiar sight.
Love you. Have a good day.
Have a good day, guys.
Getting there, though, involves a bus ride like no other for the Reimers. The local two-room school only goes to grade 2, so Sarah and Cole study in Blaine, Washington. That means traveling through Canada and back every day, a total of 4 border crossings.
You worry. I mean, they're traveling 45 minutes to an hour on a bus down the highway through 2 borders to get to school. If anything happened where we needed to get down there, it's going to take us a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour to get to them. Sarah was sick not too long ago, and they phoned me at work. But by the time I would get off work and get down there was almost the same time as it would be if she got on the bus and came home, so we had to send her on the bus sick, which as a parent is hard.
So, why choose to live in Point Roberts?
Well, it's a beautiful place to live. It's still not developed as much as Tsawwassen. It's a safe area to live. The border's kind of, like our own safety system up there. The children can, run around and play, and you're not as worried.
The border actually makes this as safe as the most exclusive gated community. That, along with the lifestyle and landscape, seem to make up for all the inconveniences. Life has moved at an easy pace since Icelandic fishermen settled here early in the 19th century. Then, in 1846, when the 49th parallel was set as the international boundary, Point Roberts became a geographic quirk, sliced off from Canada and isolated by water from the United States. And that isolation still influences life here. Point Roberts has a few banks, a few gas stations, but it has no doctor, no pharmacist, no dentist. It became even more isolated after 9/11. New rules made getting anything across the border tougher. Joan Roberts will tell you all about it.
It makes it a little bit more challenging to operate a business in Point Roberts because you have to know what the regulations are.
Roberts runs the only full-time restaurant on the point. Before 9/11, she could just drive 10 minutes into Tsawwassen and pick up groceries. Not anymore.
If I buy anything from Canada for commercial use, I have to have pre-clearance from the Food and Drug Administration before I can bring it across the border. The pre-clearance has to be done several hours before entry, so it can't be a spontaneous purchase. I can't go across and buy mushrooms that look good, or asparagus that looks good, or maybe a loaf of bread that I think would go really well in a special.
I'm supposed to look up all the harmonized tariffs.
Filling out the multi-layered FDA form is a cumbersome task, but a must to comply with the new U.S. Bioterrorism Act.
0020.
It can sometimes take 6 hours.
So you can see why I don't do this a lot.
An added burden for business.
So I've just completed one item.
That's the kind of thing that doesn't make sense.
Meg Olson is a freelance journalist who lives in Point Roberts. She says the hardest part is keeping up with those ever-changing rules.
It's too much and it grows too fast. And for the traveling public, how do you keep on top of it? I mean, how do I know that a leak was okay yesterday, but it really cannot cross the line today? It's not just us. The officers in the booth can't keep up either. I'll cross the border with my enhanced driver's license. One guy will say, oh, that's cool, that's new, and swipe it through. The next guy will say, this is really not sufficient ID anymore. You need a passport. But he just hasn't caught up yet. And you can't. They have memos stacked this high on their desks. And the guys at the border, they're only human.
Has it made life in some way kind of ridiculous here?
There's always been a bit of an element of the ridiculous when you have to go back and forth across a border, sometimes 5-6 times a day. Oh, whoops, I forgot to get the fish. Back I go. Kids late for soccer, back you go. That's always been there. But when you're taking your child to soccer and you're freaking out because you can't find his Nexus pass, honey, we can't go to soccer. You can't have your soccer game without your Nexus card.
Robert Wilkinson knows all about the good and the bad of living here.
One of the advantages is when you look out from the backyard, you're looking at another country.
A retired real estate agent, Point Roberts has been his backyard for more than 30 years.
There's the marker down there, and that indicates where the 49th parallel is.
In fact, before 9/11, his garden ran out across the 49th parallel in what is known as no man's land, the 3 meters of real estate on either side of the border.
I had a fence that went out another 10 feet or so, and I was told by the Canadian government, by Ottawa, to take the fence down and bring it back in. I was told to cut the trees in half, trim them down, so the American and Canadian governments could look down this road and have a direct line of sight all the way down to the markers.
That line of sight requirement also came with stricter rules.
I still have the footbridge right here.
Like most Canadians who'd lived along the border, he'd simply hop across his footbridge and walk Buddy, his dog, in Point Roberts.
When September 11th came along, things changed. And I always remember just after that day, I took the dog for a walk, and a car came up, and I didn't recognize the car, and it was the American Border Patrol. And that's the first time I'd ever seen one. And he gave me quite a talking to, and luckily let me go back across my little bridge here and return. But he told me, never come across that bridge again, and I never have.
Is this a symbol of the kind of things that have happened, you know, in the post-9/11 years? I mean, has it gone too far in terms of the impact it's having on a community like this?
When people say, I live in a border community, and I accept that there need to be measures to increase security because that's what our country wants, but if it's not increasing security and it's making my life hell, I have some questions. And would like to see some policies changed, or at least the way they're implemented. They need to make sense on the ground, not just at 30,000 feet in Washington.
Back on this side of the border, Canada is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to tighten security. Special integrated teams have been set up to work with U.S. agencies. We asked Leslie McKinnon to find out how it's working out, and that led her to a small town on the Quebec-Vermont border.